If you're wealthy or you're planning to become wealthy, the most important skill you need to teach your children is discernment. In my young boy days, I watched a movie about this dude whose grandfather had left him an enormous inheritance. I don't remember it too well, but I'll state what's necessary to make my point. In order to get his inheritance, he had to go through several trials and tests of his character. So when his grandfather was alive, he lived a pretty lavish lifestyle, entertaining his supermodel girlfriend and his other rich boyfriends with luxury items and experiences. But then all his accounts got frozen when his grandfather died. So this meant that he had to either figure out a way to make a living on his own or do the trials that his grandfather had set in place. And he also had to do this within a certain time frame, or the whole estate would be donated to various charities that his grandfather had chosen. So of course, this trust fund kid wasn't about to get a job and then build it up himself from scratch. So he started doing the trials. Somewhere along the way, his girl and all his friends except one abandoned him. And then he ended up working in a children's hospital and forming a special attachment to the receptionist or the nurse, one of the nurse, I don't remember, and a young kid there who was a patient because they had some terminal thing that required a lot of money, if I'm not mistaken it. He eventually finished the trials, but not without almost giving up several times. You know how these movies go. And he eventually got his inheritance of $50 million without even realizing that this was another trial. He used it all for the children's hospital and the child's terminal health thing. After doing this, his grandfather's estate manager came back and told him his actual inheritance. Yo, man. After doing this, his grandfather's estate manager came back and told him his actual inheritance was well over $1 billion. His grandfather realized that 50 million should be enough for a good life for his grandson after all the trials and shedding the toxic element in his life. But the rest of the estate would still go to the charities. However, if his grandson was mature enough to use the little that he had for something greater than himself, then he can be trusted to affect real change in the world with his own vision. So this movie was a good lesson in teaching your children to preserve the wealth you've built for them. Too many families have 1 or 2 or 3 thriving generations, only for the next 10 to suffer abject poverty, relatively anyway, to the level that they were at before. So if you're intending to get rich, or you've already made yourself rich, even if you give your kids the luxurious lifestyle, somewhere along the way, you need to expose them to the harsh realities that can affect them if they are unwise. The realities that would have affected them if you hadn't worked so hard to create a comfortable life for them. Every once in a while, just take them for a walk around Kliptown. It's hard to look at that place and not feel like humanity is failing, especially for a place near one of the biggest shopping malls in South Africa. So even with our daughters, as a rich parent, you are obligated to teach your children discernment more than anything else, or your family will go back to the rank you worked so hard to get them out of.